Yeah, it looks that way. Now, listen, I think the only team in that stretch that can beat the Eagles is the Eagles. I mean, if they come out and they're uncharacteristically sloppy and making mistakes, which they haven't shown the propensity to. I mean, they've only turned the ball over twice.
John McMullen, Jody McDonald, your Mag Birds 365 guys, and we are joined by another football expert. Or at least John tells me he is. I'm not sure. We love him whenever we punch him up. He does a great job for Sports Illustrated. Been John's co-Eagles insider for a couple of years now. Ed Kracz jumps aboard here on Birds 365. Are you feeling like you're missing something on your chin? Because both McMullen and I have some. I got more than him, but you missed a little hair down there. Are you going gray beard on us for this Eagles run? Join the fray, Eddie Kracz.
No, I'm just making sure I don't have any egg pieces left for my egg sandwich.
I thought you were pondering all the deep thoughts that you're going to be offering up to us for this undefeated Philadelphia Eagles team.
I do very little pondering, John. I just wanted to make sure there was no crumbs that from the breakfast that I just woofed down a few minutes before jumping on here. So,
well, with the coach, we have the pander in chief. With you, we could have the ponder in chief. We get T-shirts made up. Anything deserves a T-shirt these days.
I wanted a 92-46 T-shirt last week, Jody. Come on, where were they? The 92-46 motivation for the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, Jody brought up a good point. Jeff Stoutland University. I thought that would pop up right away. It hasn't popped up. Well, Jody, I'm just stealing Jody's stick, but it hasn't popped up yet.
That's okay.
Yeah. Which the Philly stuff is just a sense of urgency that you have to take advantage of it. With the Phillies and the Eagles, you can kind of take your time with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I guess so. But yeah, that was just ingenious. But Jordan Mailata, man.
That was phenomenal. I loved it. Well done. I really loved it.
Yeah. And then he went out and played a good game. You talked to him afterward, John. I mean, he was in pain after that game.
Oh,
his shoulder was on fire, he said. And that's how he's going to spend his bye. He said he's just going to stick around and do rehab, for the next week instead of taking any time off. He's just going to try to get that shoulder better. But gutty effort by Mailata and just, a great quip at the start of that telecast.
And he was going most of the day against DeMarcus Lawrence, who, for him, sorry, buddy, ran your mouth before the game. And then I can't say he was a no-show because he was in on a bunch of tackles, but I don't remember him in the backfield at all in Sunday's game against the Philadelphia Eagles. So, Jordan Mailata proved that he had better than passing grade, straight A out of Stoutland University, because he basically neutralized DeMarcus Lawrence in the Eagle backfield.
Yeah, you're right. Lawrence had 8 tackles, but didn't have any sacks. And, that's something he doesn't really do against the Eagles. You look up his career stats, he's only got 3 of them in 15 career games now. But, he's obviously a very talented football player, whether he's sacking the quarterback or not. He can make plays and make tackles. And Mailata did a good job against him, though. And kudos to him. Like I said, he was in a lot of pain. I was really surprised that he played, to be honest. I had a sense that Dillard was probably going to start that game, and they would give Jordan that extra week with this bye coming up. But they went right at Mailata. He played 100% of the snaps, I think, and he gutted it out.
Yeah, he did. And, you would think DeMarcus Lawrence would learn because, he hasn't had a lot of success against Lane Johnson over the years. And, that's one thing. And our buddy Mike Sealski wrote about this, so I'll give him a plug in the Inquirer. But that's the 3rd concussion for Lane Johnson, I think, in 5 years. And you know how this league is turning with the Tua stuff. And Nick Sirianni said there was no update. Now, you can't offer much when somebody goes into the concussion protocol, but any reason for concern because of the way this sport is going, and they're being very cautious with these types of things, and Lane Johnson getting diagnosed with a concussion.
Well, absolutely. There's a concern. The more concussions you have, the greater chance you probably have of, CTE down the line, and nobody wants to see that. So yeah, they have to make sure he's ready to return when he does return. And you would think that this week, this week off would help get him pointed in the right direction. But who knows? Maybe they'll be more cautious. I always thought coming into this season that this would be Lane's last year for whatever reason.
Wow.
But until he said otherwise, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he came out and said he's still in his prime. He's still playing good football.
Yeah, he is,
talks
by
like
the
he's
way.
sticking around for a while. But I thought prior to him saying that this could possibly be his last year just because of the injuries that he's had, with that ankle, the struggle to get back, 2 surgeries on his ankle. Just what's going on with him, personally in his personal life. I thought there was a chance this might be it for him, and the Eagles could try to take a right tackle to take his place, early in the draft. And they still might do that because, I think he's closer, obviously, to the end than he is at the beginning of his career. But, he said he wants to keep playing. He's still in his prime. His best football is ahead of him. He feels better than he ever has. So I don't think that's the case anymore. But the concussion thing could, throw, a monkey wrench into his plans on that.
Eddie, I thought Driscoll, when he filled in for Mailata, gets hurt relatively early in that Jacksonville game on the pick 6. So he misses 3/4 of the game and then the entire game last week. I thought Driscoll was phenomenal filling in for him. Grading on a curve that he's more of a right-hand side player than a left-hand side player, more of a guard than he is a tackle. To throw him in and expect him to replace a Pro Bowl level guy like Mailata, I thought he did a damn good job. Not near as good getting back over to his normal side. When Lane went down, a couple of times he got beat on some pass plays. Certainly trying to block Michael Parsons is one of the toughest assignments in the National Football League for anybody who isn't named Lane Johnson. Were you surprised that after being as good as he was on the left side, that Driscoll struggled going back over to the right?
I was, but again, like you said, it's another grade on a curve thing. I mean, that defensive front for the Cowboys is very good, and they can make you look lost out there. If you're just getting thrown in cold, which he was. But Parsons is a good player. I thought they needed to give him help out there to kind of stop Parsons a little bit better. I think as the half, I should say, went on, the second half, maybe he played a little bit better. They certainly relied on him and his other 4 line mates to open up some holes in the fourth quarter to run the football. That was encouraging. But, I talked to Kelsey after the game and asked him about Driscoll, and he said, with Andre Dillard back now Jack can just stay completely on the right side and just focus all his, his preparation on the set, the sets you have to make in the pass game. Driving out in the run game, he can just focus that all now on the right side rather than trying to learn both spots during the week. So that I think will help going forward. That Driscoll can now learn just right tackle because Dillard's back to back up Mailata at left tackle. And I still like this Brett Toth who's recovering from the ACL tear. We see him rehabbing every time we're out of practice. He looks good. He looks fine. I've talked to him. He said he feels good. So I would think it's only a matter of time before he returns, and then he gets into the mix at one of those tackle spots. And he might be better than Jack Driscoll. We'll see. But I think Driscoll will be better now that he's just able to focus on right tackle, and he won't be playing the Cowboys front again until Christmas Eve.
Stoutland University with Brett Toth. I mean, I think way too many times people don't take into account the other team. I mean, that's Micah Parsons out there.
Yeah.
That's, the Eagles talked about him all week. Nick Sirianni behind the scenes was talking all week. Hey, if you can't block him, read him. Yeah. They did that a couple times. They knew they couldn't block him. I mean, nobody can block him.
Right.
He would be the defensive player of the year. You don't have to play against that. I kind of blame the coaching staff, to be honest. And when I was talking to Nick about ball security yesterday, he went off into this hour-long answer. But, he took responsibility. He still takes responsibility for that interception against Jacksonville, I think, with Kenny Gainwell. It was a bad screenplay. He takes responsibility for that. Well, he should take responsibility, and Shane Steichen, for putting Jack Driscoll out there cold, as you said, against Micah Parsons and expecting something different. I mean, that's the best defensive player in football.
Yeah. Yeah. He probably needed some help for sure.
Yeah.
But listen, I mean, he's showing confidence in Stoutland University. You get your degree from Stoutland University.
Hey, it's a good degree, Ted, but
man, that was a real world test for Jack Driscoll.
Yeah. I mean, that's like giving the master's degree out after 1 year of curriculum at Jeff Stoutland University.
That was the Stoutland Junior College, you're saying.
Yeah.
He looked as good as he did at left tackle. I was a little surprised, even against the best guy in the National Football League. And I think you make a good point, John. Keep a back end, chip a tight end, or just a little bit of a helping hand for the young man would have been nice. But again, the Eagles win. So
by the way, I want to take credit. My X factor in the countdown to kickoff was Jack Stoll. I thought they would play him more. They played him a season high because they came into the game knowing they needed help on Parsons with injured, admittedly, Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. And then after Lane leaves, they kind of go away from it. So, again, I have to look at the coaching staff more than Jack Driscoll at that point.
Yeah. Stoll looked like he was on his way to a career game, and I guess one catch for 21 yards.
Yeah. Well, it was a career game
for Jack Stoll. I mean, that's career high, I think, in receiving yards in a game, and it came on one catch.
But he's a blocker. He's out there to block, and they had him out there quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
But he did make that one big catch. All right, so Ed, should we just shut down the rest of the season and let the Eagles start preparing for the playoffs because they've already put away this division, or do you give the Giants at 5-1 still some credit and go, this is not a fraud team, they're a legit team?
Well, listen, I'll go all coach speak on you and say, Jody, it's a week-to-week league. You're just trying to be 1-0 every week. But yeah, listen, the Eagles with 6 wins already in the bank. I mean, they've built up quite a cushion here. They would really have to fall flat on their face or just have a really crazy amount of injuries for this to go off the rails at this point. So yeah, they're a playoff team, definitely. But I like how the NFC East is, playing better. It's not like they're running away with this thing. Last year, 2 years ago, they'd have a 3-game lead in this division at this point. But, the Giants aren't going away. And everybody keeps saying, well, are they for real? I think they're for real. Why wouldn't you? I mean, they've beaten the Ravens. They've beaten the Packers. Granted, those two teams have struggled. But listen, the Giants would have lost to both those teams last year. So, yeah, the Giants are good. And they're not going anywhere. They're 5-1. I think they come into an easier part of their schedule now. Cowboys 4-2. They have a fairly easy next couple games. I think they play the Lions and the Bears. They should be sitting at 6-2. So yeah, the Eagles' lead is very tenuous at 6-0. They have to keep winning because these other teams, I think, are going to keep winning right along with them. And we could see 3 teams from the NFC East in the playoffs, which would just be
how about that? Yeah,
absurd. So these teams are going to play each other twice because these division teams always do, but they might play a third time in the playoffs if all 3 teams from this division get in, and it's a real possibility at this point.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Now, coming out of the bye, though, boy, it looks good for the Eagles. You got Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers first up at home. Then you got a short week, but your Thursday night game, you can't get a better Thursday night road trip than Houston and Davis Mills and the Texans. I mean, that's a bad football team. They just don't have a ton of talent. And then you have Washington coming back, and as we all predicted, no Carson Wentz. It's going to be Taylor Heineke now. Maybe your guy, Sam Howell, but they want no part of Sam Howell.
Sam Howell's
I hope it's Sam Howell.
And by the way, Ed, the current day North Carolina quarterback is twice the player that Sam Howell is.
Who is the North Carolina quarterback, Jay?
A sophomore kid who's putting up baffle numbers. I've seen him play a couple times. I don't know why I've watched. Well, 1 week I picked him and I bet him, so I was paying specific attention to the game. I can't think of the kid's name. He's been dynamite for them. He's got a legit arm, unlike Sam Howell. Eddie Kratz's favorite.
Sam Howell,
yeah.
But, okay. That's pretty easy. That's a pretty easy landscape for the Eagles coming out of the bye. It really is.
Yeah, it looks that way. Now, listen, I think the only team in that stretch that can beat the Eagles is the Eagles. I mean, if they come out and they're uncharacteristically sloppy and making mistakes, which they haven't shown the propensity to. I mean, they've only turned the ball over twice.
That's unbelievable. That's
It
what I was talking to Nick about. It cannot sustain itself, Ed, or is that just luck? I mean, let's be honest. The ball bounces the wrong way. So you had a bad, not a bad snap. I shouldn't say that, but Kelsey snapped the ball before Jalen Hurts was ready against Dallas. He managed to get back on the football. If that goes the other way, they've been lucky when it comes to the turnover. They're plus 12, all right, which is tremendous through 6 games.
Yeah.
The second team in the NFL is plus 4. I mean, that gap is what can that continue, or is that sort of a market? It's going to go back to the mean, whatever you want to call it. Is there just too much luck going on in the turnover realm?
Yeah, I think what you mentioned with like interceptions, I think you can get unlucky there with the way the ball bounces, or if a receiver has a ball go off his hands and it goes up in the air and it's picked off. I think that's how Andre Sisco intercepted that pick 6. I think Hurts tried to feed it in there. I think it was Zach Pascal.
Yeah. Well, that was double coverage, but you're right. It popped up.
It popped up. They pick it. But I think what you can control in the turnover arena, if you will, is the fumbling. And they haven't done that. Now, Kelsey, snapped it before Hurts was ready on that one play, and they got lucky to recover it. But they're doing a really good job holding on to the football. Because fumbling is something you can control. I mean, if you have 2 hands on that ball and the way guys strip at it and, try to punch it out, it's going to be harder to do that. And I give credit to Jamal Singleton in this area, because we see him doing these ball security drills.
Yeah.
And, he's an old military guy, went to the Air Force Academy. We wrote about that drill they did at training camp with the punt. He's got the boxing gloves and he's punching guys.
Oh man, he's beating the crap out of people.
The ball, he's like a boxer. And the guys, sometimes you see him get it out, or they would pull at the ball. They have the ball with the string and they try to pull it out as he's running through the obstacle course there. Sometimes it works, but I think that constant, and they do it every day of practice. We see it when we go out to practice. They do ball security drills at the start of every practice. And I think that's what they're trying to control, is the fumble part of it. Yeah, you're going to turn the ball over through the air, on a fluke pass or a bad pass, a bad read, a ball that bounces up in the air. But fumbles, if you can control those, and they have, then it's not a fluke. You're going to continue on this trend of holding on to the football while you're turning it over. They have 14 turnovers, this defense. They have 14 forced turnovers in 6 games. That's ridiculous. I think the most I can remember them having, I think, was 27 forced turnovers, and I'm not sure when that was. I think the Super Bowl year they had 19 forced turnovers. I'd have to check that. But when you're turning the ball over, you're going to be a winning team.
And Coach Sirianni said yesterday that if Joel Embiid wants a little work,
he needs that work, because he turns it over like like a bakery. He makes more turnovers than a bakery.
Protection is important, and the Eagles are offering to give Joel a helping hand. We got some of those military drills for him. Drake May is the quarterback of the North Carolina squad this year. Only has 24 touchdown passes and 2,200 yards in 7 games. He's averaging 300 a game.
He's no Sam Howell.
Are you kidding me? This guy's going to put Sam Howell in his rear view mirror like you read about. Any records that Sam Howell may have amassed over the last couple of years in North Carolina going by the wayside.
I'm just trying to create hype for Washington coming in here.
But that's the first time.
Taylor Heineke, are you jumping on the Heineke bandwagon? Because
they are. They've already kind of made it clear it's going to be Taylor Heineke. So,
Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, that's still that game's still 3-4 weeks away. So who knows what the landscape will be then.
I don't think Carson's going to be there. I think we can guarantee that.
Well, we all thought Carson wouldn't be there because he would be benched.
Yeah.
He's got the broken finger, and we should have thought injury first, because listen, that's just how his career.
That's always a possibility.
That's true. And to be fair, he was on track for getting benched anyway, because they're a bad football team. But
But hey, Heineke Heineke
He won his last game before he got hurt. Got a W on exciting Thursday night football.
I love how Thursday night football is maybe the ugliest game I've ever seen. I couldn't turn away for Chicago, Washington because of the incompetence of Chicago mainly. Even more, Washington looked like an actual football team. Just a bad one. And then people are saying
the Bears are on the Eagles schedule in December. I mean, again, hey, can they go undefeated? I mean, who on this schedule? Now the Giants, they're not going to beat the Giants twice.
No.
They're not going to beat the Cowboys twice.
They can beat the Cowboys twice.
Well, that's a tough spot, I think.
That is
Christmas Eve, third game on the road. I think that's a tough spot, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. But we'll see. They're more talented. They're a better team. The reason I bring up that Chicago game, and I'm going to bring up the game last night because a lot of people I saw on social media, another ugly game. A lot of people saying, well, the Eagles really dodged a bullet when Russell Wilson wouldn't consider them, Deshaun Watson as well. And Jalen Hurts has, turned into an MVP candidate. Not going to win it, but he's a candidate. But I think this talks to the Eagles coaching staff as well and what they've done with Jalen Hurts. People assume, too many people assume, that the Russell Wilson in Denver would show up and be the same Russell Wilson in Philadelphia. I don't think that's the case. I think this coaching staff would have built an offense around Russell Wilson, and he would have succeeded. I think the same thing with Deshaun Watson. They built it around Jalen Hurts. I give this offensive coaching staff a lot of credit for building an offense because we talk about all offseason, Ed. Jalen Hurts has got to improve as a passer. He's out with Tom House and company. He does a great job on his mechanics. He has improved. But when the games start, Nick Sirianni does whatever it takes to win a particular game. He might run Miles Sanders into the ground against Jacksonville. He might need to run it for 200 yards. He might need to pass it when Minnesota was playing all that zone coverage. He does whatever it takes to win a particular football game. I think that is rare in the NFL. Other teams, this is my scheme. You play my scheme. I give this coaching staff a lot of credit. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, that said, though, I think Russell Wilson does look a little shell-shocked. He doesn't look like he was. He doesn't have that same quickness, that same ability in the pocket. He almost tries to get too cute. He's throwing passes way inaccurately. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess part of it's the coaching, but, I think Russell Wilson doesn't look good either. I mean, that goes hand in hand, coaches, Wilson. And they did dodge a bullet not getting him. They dodged a bullet not getting Deshaun Watson. And you're right. This coaching staff for the Eagles has done a really nice job putting Jalen Hurts in positions to make plays. I mean, he understands this offense. He's in control of this offense. I think the second year in this offense has helped him immensely. But you have to give Hurts credit, too. I mean, there was a play in that game against the Cowboys. I think it was 3rd and 5 on that final drive in the fourth quarter. Maybe it was 3rd and 4, right around the 45-yard line in the negative side of the field. And he saw 2 blitzers that looked like they were going to come through the gaps between the guards in the center. There were 2 standing there. And then when he snapped the ball, they backed off, and he just took the ball and just followed them, knowing that he could probably get those 4 yards. And he had to make a sharp cut to get to that 5th yard to get the first down. But I think that was all Hurts. I think that was all an improvisational play by Hurts. I don't think that was a coaching thing. He recognized that those guys were backing off and they weren't blitzing, and he just followed them right up the field and got the first down. That was huge. It kept the drive going. You get the 4th and 3 or 4th and 2 there, right, around the midfield stripe. I don't know what Nick would have done in a game like that. He might have punted it away. So, you have to give Hurts some credit too. But you're right. This coaching staff, and we talked about Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, probably going to get some love in the offseason for being a head coach based on how he has helped develop Hurts. He's calling the plays. Now, Sirianni really, threw him a big bone by letting him do that. Teams, when they're interviewing coaches, like when you're offensive coordinator, you've called plays. So, yeah, I think Steichen's very much in the mix for a head coaching spot, and he's done a great job, him and Nick both, developing Jalen Hurts and the quarterback's coach, Brian Johnson. Really behind the scenes guy who's working with Hurts on his mechanics. And he looks really like a completely different quarterback. So yeah, I give the coaches a lot of credit. You're right.
Yeah, John, let me ask you a question about that. If Sirianni is that good at tailoring an offense specifically for the skill sets of his quarterback, why didn't it kick in last year? The only difference between this year's offense and last year's offense is A.J. Brown. And I'm not going to minimize A.J. Brown. It's a hell of an addition. But it's the same exact 5 offensive linemen. It's the same 3 running backs. It's the same tight ends. It's the same other wide receivers, Quez and Devontae Smith. So they made one. Is A.J. Brown that big a difference? If they're genius at being able to take their quarterback and emphasize his strengths, why didn't it happen last year?
Well, it did. I would say it did in the second half of the season. Remember when Nick got here? But yes, number one, personnel is a big thing. And I've talked about A.J. Brown. He's been the domino where everything kind of falls into place. So that's a big part of it. I don't want to downplay because A.J. Brown has been great. And even when he's not catching the football, he's got an impact on the game because he's making things easier for everybody else. So I don't want to downplay that part of it because that's a big part of it. But when he got here as a rookie head coach, yeah, he was trying to make Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie happy. He was trying to do what they want: throw the football, 11 personnel, throw it all over the field. That's not what he had, and he had that sort of come to Jesus moment at 2-5 and said, "There's too much on his plate. There's too much on the quarterback's plate. Let's scale it back. Let's build the offense around what he does well." And they took off in the second half of the season. And it was very impressive in the second half of the season. But make no mistake, it was and I don't even call it a run. Jody, I don't call it a run-first offense. I don't call it a pass-first offense when they're passing the ball. It's a Jalen Hurts first offense because he's a very unique player. +1 in the running game, however you want to describe it. He's very difficult to deal with. They started taking advantage of that early in the season, which is throw the football, throw the football, throw the football. And he got back to what he was in Indianapolis. Now, he wasn't in charge, but remember what they did in Indianapolis. Andrew Luck retired. They had to go to Jacoby Brissett. They had to go to Phillip Rivers after that. They built 3 entirely different offenses in 3 years around the strengths of the quarterback. And Ed can tell you, they love Shane Steichen, Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo as well. They love Phillip Rivers. They never stop talking about Phillip Rivers, how smart he is, what he could do at the line of scrimmage, all that kind of stuff. Now he's a 40-year-old guy, been playing forever. Young quarterbacks can't do what Phillip Rivers does, so you have to build a different offense. Now, I bring up Justin Fields in Chicago. They hire Luke Getsy, who's with Aaron Rodgers, and he parachutes in and says, "All right, do what Aaron Rodgers does, Justin Fields." Well, he's going to fail. That's where I think the Eagles coaching staff is great. That's my opinion. They have built different offenses for different quarterbacks. And that seems like common sense, but it's not very common around the NFL. People run their offense and they put the quarterback in their offense.
So let me put it this way, John. We can all agree that the Eagles, even if you just look at the second half, take the 2-5 start, everybody's growing pains, put them all aside and just judge it from when they went to a Jalen Hurts offense. Compare last year's second half to this year's first 6 games. Is the improvement more because of coaching or more because of Jalen Hurts and just his own personal improvement, ability to throw the ball on time, accurately? I think he was as good a leader last year as he was this year, so I don't think that's changed. But do you think the improvement is more Jalen and the work that he's put in and how he's grown, or the fact that the coaching staff decided, all right, forget about trying to please the owner. We're just going to do what's best for us in evaluating our entire team?
Ed, I think it all is part of it, but I would think the most part is personnel. The most part is A.J. Brown. to be honest. But
Yeah.
let's get Ed's thoughts.
Well, yeah. I think it's some familiarity too, right? I mean, Nick
Yeah.
Sirianni came in, saw, was kind of under this mandate to let's see what Hurts can do because we want to see if we want to extend them. So he built his offense around Hurts. And John's right. A lot of coaches come in and they bring their scheme and then they try to fit the players into their scheme rather than looking at the players they have and then building the scheme. And so I think Nick came in and tried to build the scheme around Jalen and realized, hey, it's not working. We have 2 wins in 7 games here. Let's change our scheme a little bit. Let's change our approach and give the ball. Let's get some more players involved here. Sanders and Howard and Scott and, these guys that were running the ball last year. And now you're seeing more familiarity between the coach and the quarterback too. These guys know each other a little bit better. They understand what they can do and what they can't do, and they're playing to those strengths. And a coaching staff that has that flexibility, that doesn't come in married to a scheme, is going to succeed. And we're seeing that. And A.J. Brown, man, I mean, you're right. That to me just kind of brought it all together. In that game, it was kind of funny when we saw Brown and Diggs kind of barking at each other early in the game, in each other's face. And Brown was asked about it afterward, what was going on. And I loved his answer. He said he was trying to assert his dominance over us, and I wasn't having any of it. So, I mean, that is, to me, just speaks volumes of the type of player. Not only is he good, as a pass catcher and getting open and running with the ball in the open field, which is really, when he gets the ball in his hands, he's fun to watch what he's going to do with it. Because he's just not going to fall down or, try to pick up a yard or two. He's going to try to get every single yard out of that pass that he can. But he also gives you that edge, to say to Diggs, like, hey, man, you're in our house. You're not coming in here and beating us. He went right back at Diggs when Diggs is trying to assert his dominance on their home field. So I like that about Brown too, his attitude. And he's brought it all together, in my opinion, with Hurts. Yeah, there's a familiarity, coach, quarterback, but Brown brings it all together and he helps make this thing work.
Yeah, AJ, you think about that touchdown, Ed, which was, I'm looking at it, 15 yards. That was that little misdirection flip into the flat that has worked so well for him. Typically, when you see a wide receiver out there and they turn the football off the field, you're like, all right, he might make somebody miss. AJ turned that football off the field. I'm like, all right, that's over. Touchdown. Nobody's tackling him. They're not taking him on. He's so dominant in the open field because he's so big and so athletic. Yeah. Normally, you got to make a miss if you're a receiver. AJ's like, you're not going to tackle me. Pretty impressive player. I always say I knew he was good. I didn't know he was this good.
Exactly. And Brown talked about that. He said all he had to do was outrun Micah Parsons. He wasn't sure if Parsons was going to, leak out with him to try to cover him. But Parsons was he looked like he didn't know what he was going to do because Hurts puts so much pressure on you as a running back.
Yeah.
That he was just kind of frozen in space there thinking, all right, is Hurts going to run? I got to be ready. Meanwhile, Brown's 5 yards behind him. It's an easy pitch and catch for Hurts. And then Donovan, I think it was
more physical safeties in the NFL. He is. Donovan Wilson, he's known for big hits as much as you can be known.
He wasn't.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Wanted nothing to do.
They wanted no part. And if you see AJ, you understand why they want no part. Swole Batman.
Between you and I was actually more impressed with the catch he made leading to the second touchdown, which got him down to the 5. Devontae was the one who got to cash the chips and make the catch. But that catch I thought was even more impressive than his touchdown catch. He is that good. Johnny Mac, I remember you and I talking about it when they acquired him. And shame on me, I got to admit, I was wrong. I had him just outside the top 10. One day here on Birds 365, we went through it and ranked the top 10 receivers, what they've accomplished, what they project to do, trying to do a balance, and I had him at number 11. Oh, no.
Yeah, I had him outside the top 10, too, which, by the way, is not an insult. We got like we're insulting him. That's still very good, but he's been even better than that.
Absolutely.
He's a great player.
Remember our top 25 Eagles rankings. We had him, 4th, I think, or 3rd? I mean, maybe 2nd. We had him.
2nd, yeah. I had him 2nd overall. I forget what you had him.
Me too. I'd have to look. But, that's how I thought very highly of A.J. Brown when he got here. I knew he was a yards after catch guy. And Jody, that play you're talking about, that 22-yard, that's what I'm talking about. When he gets the ball in his hands, I mean, he turned that play from what was it? I don't know, an 8-yard gain or a 9-yard gain into a 22-yard gain because he was able to sprint outside, cut the corner, and guys were pursuing him, and they finally were able to get him down. But that's what he brings, man, is that yards after catch, which is fun to watch. I can't remember the last time the Eagles had a receiver that was that dangerous once he gets the ball in his hands.
No, because T.O.'s different. As big as T.O. was, he was, the game has changed. Now you have all these underneath throws, but you bring up, and we kept you too late. I apologize, Ed. At Kracz, ESI.com/NFL/Eagles. That play, the touchdown play, you brought up the point where that also emphasizes the difficulty of Jalen Hurts, because you're right. Micah Parsons caught in between there, didn't know what to do. Do you go after the quarterback? Do you try to leak out with the receiver? That's the difficulties that Jalen Hurts, and that's what the coaching staff does with them. They put you in that conflict,
right?
In that conflict as a defender.
You're damned if you do and damned if you don't, because if he would have leaked out with Brown, then Brown's blocking as Jalen Hurts is sweeping the edge, and maybe it's a 15-yard touchdown run for Jalen Hurts. So, that's a tough position, and you're right. The coaches design that, they scheme that, and they played that out to perfection on that play.
All right, I'm going to throw one more before we let you run, Ed. Teams that, and I use this from time to time. Some people say I use it too much. The quote unquote Vegas odds, the gambling odds, call it what you want. It's no longer just Vegas. It's basically everywhere. Anybody who's got an app can be wagering on NFL games and NFL futures before the season started. The defending champion Rams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the San Francisco 49ers, and the who am I forgetting now? Oh, that Rodgers team up there in Green Bay.
Yep.
All were shorter odds to get to the Super Bowl than the Philadelphia Eagles. They're all 3-3. That's not great. If you're planning on going to the Super Bowl, you want to be better than 3-3 after 6 games, and there are modicums of how much they've achieved in their first 6 games. Give me one from column A and one from column B. One out of those 4 teams who were all favored over the Eagles when the season started, did you go, all right, slow start, stub their toe. Oh, they're going to be there when we get to the final bell come playoffs in January. And one team that you go, yeah, Mac, they're not good. They were overrated. Good luck getting them back anywhere near the Super Bowl, because I'm not seeing it. Which would you say is the team you would most have fear could get it turned around, and which one do you think is actually in a buried mode?
Well, I think the team that can turn it around would be the 49ers, just because I really like that defense. I like their coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, potential head coach if a team wants to hire a defensive coach. But I like their defense. I think, they lost to the Falcons, obviously. Tough
Falcons
trip.
moved it right down the field, first possession of the game. Ran it right down their throats. I was watching that game. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I was surprised that the Falcons won, but that's a tough trip coming across country. But I think it's the 49ers for me that can turn this thing around, just because I love their defense. I think Kyle Shanahan will eventually figure it out. You wonder if Mike McDaniel was the brains behind that operation. Now he left and he's in Miami. Now they started out 3-0 and now they're 3-3. So the team I don't think that can turn it around probably would be the Packers, maybe the Bucks. I mean, the Packers to me I thought were overrated coming in. I know they got the all-world quarterback, but he has no weapons. They didn't do a good enough job putting anything around him. They got nothing around him, and it's showing. He's frustrated. And Aaron Rodgers, when he gets frustrated, isn't the same guy. And then at Tampa, you have a situation where Tom Brady's taking every Wednesday off. He's going through all this personal angst at home with his wife. And, he's 45. Let's not forget that at some point. Father time always wins. So I'm not sure the Bucs can turn it around either. I like their defense, but I don't like their defense as much as the 49ers. So I go 49ers can turn it. I don't think the Packers and Bucs will. I don't remember the other team.
Rams.
Oh, the Rams. Yeah, the Rams, they might be able to turn around. But that Super Bowl hangover thing for me is a real deal. It's hard to recapture that same energy, enthusiasm, intensity for 17 games that you had the year before as a Super Bowl champ. Now, they might turn it around if they can figure it out. 3-3, plenty of football ahead for these teams to do it. That's the one thing about the Eagles. They've put 6 wins in the bank. They have less. They have more of a margin for error. These teams at 3-3 have reduced their margin for error and need to get it turned around quickly, or they are going to be on the outside looking in.
I'll tell you why it's Tampa. 2 words: Todd Bowles. I watched Todd Bowles coach the Jets for a couple of years. Great defensive coordinator, not a head coach. And there have been guys like that in the league who have been phenomenal coordinators, get a chance at the big chair, and they just can't do it. And that might be the case again for Todd Bowles. Eddie, we kept you a long time. Thank you very much for hanging with us as long as you did. Feel free to go back to eating eggs.
I have a dentist appointment, Jody. I got to get a little dental.
Make sure you then get all the eggs out. Do some flossing before you head out.
Next step. That's my next step. Thanks, guys.
Kracz from 20.